Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We're going to start soon. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started soon. Hello, hello. Yeah, no, you good. Everyone, please find a seat because we're going to get started soon. Thank you very much.
Welcome, dear friends, to the celebration of the birth of Baha'u'llah. We are honored to have a special MC tonight, Jacqueline Peterson, who kindly accepted our invitation again. For those of you who know Jacqueline, she's a professional speaker. But before inviting her to microphone, I have to add. Other than being a professional speaker, she's a transformational coach and help people to develop their inner capacity, uncover their inner capacity through the workshops she developed in the companies or individual. Please welcome Jacqueline Peterson.
Thank you so much, Jale. Well, I'll be honest, I was really excited to be here tonight until Jale introduced me to several Toastmasters here, so I'm a little nervous now. But nonetheless, I am so honored to be here among family and friends, old and new, as we come together to celebrate and honor the birth of Baha'u'llah tonight. Even though I myself am a Buddhist by faith, and I know that there are many in the audience today who share a different faith as well. But the fact that we can all come together in love and fellowship and share that beautiful meal that we just had together is the essence of what the Baha'i faith is all about. Do you agree? Yes. Baha'u'llah once said that all peoples and nations are of one family, the children of one father, and should be to one another as brothers and sisters. So regardless of what your faith may be, which messenger of God you worship, I invite you here tonight to join hearts with me and everyone here as brothers and sisters, one spiritual family, as we celebrate the birth of Baha'u'llah, a mortal man, outwardly human in every aspect, had no worldly powers or authority, yet was chosen by God to deliver unto humanity a new message that would usher in a new age of peace and justice. So, with that, tonight's program is going to be a journey of fellowship. We're going to share special performances and watch special performances together, but we'll also share engaging, thought-provoking conversations together as well. And we're going to learn from and help one another embody Baha'u'llah's wisdom to become better role models and support structures for our families, communities, and society at large, right? So that means whether you're a youth who's questioning things just so you might find your own path in life, or you're an adult who's balancing the nearly impossible task of work and family, or if you're an elder whose wisdom could enlighten and humble us. We want to hear from everyone because, simply put, sharing is caring, and we are only better together. Do you agree? If you agree, give 3 people around you a high five. I want to see that right now. Come on. High five. High five. All right. High five. All right. So in this, this is what we're talking about, right? The spirit of unity and love and fellowship. So with that said, before we open up our program, let's start with some devotional prayers. And before we do that, could everyone please silence their phone so that we can observe our prayers properly? Thank you.
This is the month wherein was born he who beareth the most great name, whose appearance hath caused the limbs of humankind to quake, and the dust of whose footsteps the concourse on high, and the dwellers of the cities of names have sought for a blessing. Whereupon they rendered praise unto God, and cried out joy and exaltation by God. This is the month through which all the months have been illumined, the month wherein he who is the hidden secret and the well-guarded treasure hath been made manifest, and hath called aloud amidst all humankind. All dominion belongeth to this newborn child, through whom the face of creation hath been wreathed in smiles. And the trees have swayed, and the oceans have surged, and the mountains have taken flight. The paradise hath lifted its voice, and the rock hath acclaimed, O concourse of creation, hasten ye towards the dawning place of the countenance of your Lord, the merciful, the compassionate.
The purpose underlying the revelation of each heavenly book, nay, of every divinely revealed verse, is to endue all men with righteousness and understanding, so that peace and tranquility may be firmly established among them. Whatsoever instilleth assurance into the hearts of men, whatsoever exalteth their station, or promoteth their contentment, is acceptable in the sight of God. How lofty is the station which man, if he but choose to fulfill his high destiny, can attain. To what depths of degradation he can sink, depths which the meanest of creatures have never reached. Seize, O friends, the chance which this day offereth you, and deprive not yourselves of the liberal effusions of his grace. I beseech God that he may graciously enable every one of you to adorn yourself in this blessed day with the ornament of pure and holy deeds. He verily doeth whatsoever he willeth. Baha'u'llah from Gleanings.
Okay. Thank you for that. Baha'u'llah regarded music and singing as spiritual food of the heart and soul. So in honor of that, we'd like to open up the program with a very special song by Louise R. Waite titled Benediction. Louise R. Waite composed this song in 1909 as a divine inspiration she received when she was walking home one afternoon. And Baha'u'llah's son, Abdul Baha, praised this song in a letter to the spiritual assembly of the Baha'is of Chicago, and recommended that this melody be sung in all gatherings of love and harmony for the beloved of God. So tonight, we have Renee Aparicio, songwriter and singer with 5 Latin American World nominations, and Jamie Mantra, the director of the micro schools based on Baha'i beliefs, will sing a duet of this song for us to set the tone for the beautiful evening we're about to share here tonight in honor of Baha'u'llah's birth.
Love, angelic host, triumphant now surround on every side. And in heavenly strains I strengthened in peace and love that will abide. Hark, the heavenly concourse singing joyful praises to the King. Lift your voices now and join them, and Lord's benediction sing. And Lord's benediction sing.
May God's love now hover over us as a dove with outstretched wings, while His peace that flows around us to each heart sweet comfort brings. May we now receive His Spirit and His radiance shed afar. Now and here in love abiding in the realms of Elohim.
May God
Love now hover over us as a dove with outstretched wings, while His peace that flows around us to each heart sweet comfort brings. May we now receive His Spirit and His radiance shed afar. Now and here in love abiding in the realms of Elohim.
in the realms of
Elohim. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved is come.
el más amado, está aquí. El más amado está aquí. El más amado, el más amado, el más amado está aquí.
Let us praise Him.
Alabémosle,
Let us praise Him.
alabémosle.
Let us praise Him.
Baha'u'llah.
Let us praise Him.
Alabémosle.
Let us praise Him. Let us praise Him. The glory of God. He who is the best beloved is come.
El más amado está aquí.
He who is the best beloved, he who is the best beloved, he who is the best beloved is come. Let us praise Him. Let us praise Him. Let us praise Him. Baha'u'llah.
Let us praise Him, alabémosle.
Let us praise Him. Let us praise Him. The glory of God. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Baha'u'llah, meaning the glory of God, was born in Tehran, Iran, on November 12, 1817, named Mirza Muhammad Ali. He enjoyed all the luxuries from a noble birth, and he exhibited extraordinary knowledge and wisdom even at an early age. And early on in his life, he adopted the Bab's beliefs. And even though the two have never met, but the moment he heard the Bab's message, he believed in it so wholeheartedly that he committed all his energies and his influence to promoting it. And as an early nobleman, he renounced a position at the Shah's court and instead devoted all his energies and committed himself to serving and helping the poor and the oppressed. And he showed absolutely no interest in position or prominence. In fact, he even once said, "I have never aspired after worldly leadership. My sole purpose hath been to hand down unto men that which I have been bidden to deliver by God." And so, to truly appreciate, understand Baha'u'llah's contribution to humanity, let's take a look at some key social, economic, spiritual, technological, and other changes taking place in the world during Baha'u'llah's life from 1817 to 1892. In this next segment, Maura Sweeney, an international speaker and trademarked ambassador of happiness, who have keynoted in over 12 foreign nations, will share with us historical accounts on what life was like back then and the struggles that citizens of the world faced at large. Please welcome Maura Sweeney.
I have many notes, as you might imagine. I couldn't put all of this to memory, so in the next 10 minutes, we're going to go on what I would call a breathless trip through a near century in time. And to make sure I don't take too much time, I'm also putting my timer on. When I first signed up for this unusual opportunity, I had no idea what I was exposing myself to. First of all, it's way outside my comfort zone. But besides that, although I had always been fascinated by this era in time, I felt such a compelling need to say yes to tonight. So are you ready? Are you going to hold your breath and feel breathless in the next 10 minutes as we go through a near century? This time period was known as an age of imperialism, expansion, and exchanging of influences. In Europe, the major powers were exercising control, colonizing territories in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Way over in Japan, surprisingly, they were going through a major industrial revolution, from a feudal society to becoming an industrial powerhouse. I never knew that. And of course, here in America, our land size was absolutely expanding from sea to, as you know, shining sea, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, especially with the discovery of the gold rush. There's gold in them there hills. Now, this time period was also known as an age of cultural, economic, social, and religious stillness that was quickly appended and moved into a dislodged situation as all things were being challenged and changed into a very fast-moving era. Hold on a second. Do I know how to do this? Thank you. Good. Okay, thank you so much. Most of the world prior to this time was an agrarian society, which meant that people lived in very small villages, often on the same plot of land, and oftentimes for generations and sometimes even ages. Life was static, predictable, relatively unchanged, and governed by local custom and nature's planting and harvest seasons. Quiet, still, predictable. Well, to a large degree, that quiet and predictable lifestyle was going on here in the Americas. But once we came to the time of the Industrial Revolution, all was about to change. And that, again, was the time when Baha'u'lláh was entering onto the world scene. So whether it was here in America or over in Europe, or as we found out in places like Japan, changes were taking place everywhere. And many of the changes were, I would say, symbiotic. Okay. In 1845 to 1847, we had a big thing happen, and maybe some of you knew about it. In Ireland, they had the potato famine, and people were on the verge of starvation and death. So what did they do? They decided they were going to cross the Atlantic Ocean, bringing a whole new group of not just immigrants to America, but they were religious. Surprise people, where America was a Protestant nation, and they didn't trust Catholics. These Irish people were coming over, and they responded to the Pope rather than to the Bible. So it caused a lot of, as you might think, a lot of fear and tension. Not only did the Irish Catholic come over, but so did German Catholics. And in a period of 30 years, America ended up with 250% increase in their population. So now we're going to go into the next thing. What happens when immigrants and different people groups arrive and they're in the same place? You end up with urban centers. in the midst of new work opportunities, and it creates some social and legislative issues. Here, well, first of all, even in Great Britain, where the Industrial Revolution was taking place, new cities were emerging like Manchester and Birmingham, and Parliament was forced to make new rules to make sure people all had their voting from new places. New people got a chance to be represented and vote within the House of Commons. And here in the United States, we had things going on in the U.S. Congress where they were trying to create legislation to keep the slave states and the free states kind of on an equal footing so as to avoid what was soon to become a civil war. Now, you ready for the next breathless thing? We're going into technology and the acceleration of new inventions and lifestyles. I want you to think again of life being very static, simple, and all of a sudden, all these new things pop up. Now, it wasn't just here in America. There were literally ideas being seeded everywhere around the world where scientists and inventors were getting ideas being created everywhere, but sometimes it was the first to market that would get the name. Imagine this. All of a sudden, new things show up, and they include cement, the microphone, sewing machines, electric dynamos, the commercial reaper changing the way people conducted agriculture, the washing machine for the ladies, typewriters, mail order catalogs. Think about the old-fashioned Amazon that we now have today for the first time, the telephone, light bulb, and phonograph. The roller coaster, in case now we had all these people in urban centers and we wanted to have some fun. Mechanical cash registers, the automobile, and it was known by the name of Benz, think Mercedes-Benz, the radar, the escalator, and even Coca-Cola. Surprisingly, there were 3 other things that got my attention. Ready? The machine gun, the torpedo, and dynamite. Well, during this era, with all of these changes taking place in London, the Crystal Palace, a huge edifice that was designed specifically for this reason, brought together people from all over the world to display all the new inventions of the era. And let me give you some things that I thought were really amazing changes. Many people were busy trying to work out something which would eventually be known as the Morse code or the telegraph. And sure enough, Samuel Morse got the credit for it. It was the telegraph. Very soon thereafter, and creating this telegraph that could telegraph signals, he created a code so that communication would be devised. The very first commercial live message was made from our U.S. Capitol to Baltimore, Maryland's train station, and it was "What hath God wrought?" And it was in 1844. But within a decade, even as trains were being developed and connecting cities in different parts of the country, over 20,000 miles of telegraph cable was crisscrossing the United States. More than that, in 1866, the first transatlantic underwater cable system was created so that communication and commerce could be quickly worked through the Atlantic Ocean from one continent to another. There was a biggie thing that happened, and I hope I could get this all in, the Erie Canal, 1825. And the reason why it was so important here is that in 8 years' time, we were able to take a concept of engineering and things that had been developed elsewhere through Europe and bring it up to new levels, actually creating the first U.S. practical school of civil engineering. We created a connection between the Atlantic Ocean, the New York Hudson River, and all of the Great Lakes. So it gave people a chance to establish new cities and to bring commerce back and forth into the interior of the United States. So new cities got set up, and the amazing thing that happened out of this is not only did travel become faster, usually from 2 weeks down to 5 days, freight rates dropped as much as 20% compared to the cost of the ox-drawn carriages. Midwestern produce, loggers, and other products were going back and forth with their merchandise. But there were social things that happened too, because people were traveling along this canal. And as they did, they shared new ideas, their cultures from home, and it was in the middle of a very spiritual time in not just America, but in the world. We had people set up new, I would say, religious movements. And there were personalities that developed, like Joseph Smith, who started Mormonism after developing or translating certain things. I don't want to go into all that because I'll lose all my time. But as it turns out, not only did we have the Mormons, the Seventh-day Adventists, and so many other movements like the Shakers, who were Quakers, but who were shaking because of their religious fervor. We had women that got involved. They got involved in social issues. They helped advance the desires for the black slaves to be free. And societies opened up. Oh, there you go. So the very troubles that we had, the social troubles of poverty and drinking and slavery and women who at the time really had so little to do, all amalgamated during that era. Look at this, I'm almost done. All amalgamated during that era to experiment with new ways of bringing, in a sense, heaven to earth. Now, during that time, there were so many personalities, but I bet everybody would remember one spiritual personality that emerged on the scene. Would anyone like to tell me? Baha'u'llah. And I want to finish this by saying that I was so excited when I had an opportunity to find out more about Baha'u'llah, to realize that when I was just a little girl, I kept imagining the world as being one big happy family. I couldn't wait to travel and meet my friends that I considered my far-off relatives in every country of the world. I've also been a person who was always spiritual. So when I read the background and the beliefs of Baha'u'llah and even the illuminated writings, I thought, I am so glad that Jaleh invited me to come and spend this time with you and really enjoy the celebration of a man whose thoughts, whose life, whose advancements and illumination so much are a part of my life as well, and I didn't even know it. So happy birthday, and on to the next one, and thank you again.
Thank you, Maura. So, as we all know, Baha'u'llah underwent a lot of hardships and trials and tribulations. But despite all of those hardships and turbulent times that he lived through, he still modeled to us a new kind of civilization, one that is united in generosity and gratitude, in kindness and compassion, in equality and unity. So next, I want to spend a few minutes to explore together the teachings and wisdoms of Baha'u'llah and help one another really embody that tonight. Because I really can't think of a better way to honor Baha'u'llah's birth than really helping one another embody his wisdoms and carry that forth in our days. Do you? Right? Great. So first, one of the key teachings that really stood out to me as I was doing research is he once said, "Be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity." So let's talk about generosity a little bit. Right? It may seem like common sense how to be generous and whatnot, but can someone here share with me what that means to you and in what ways can we be generous? Because there are many ways, right? So anybody, we can make this fun, or I can call names and make it really awkward. Yes, Soledad.
Thank you for that wonderful opportunity to share what it means to be generous. And I think the only way that we can truly be generous is to show grace. And when we show grace, it means that when someone offends us or someone does something that we really don't agree with, it is a call to grace. It is a call to be generous with our spirit and to understand why they're responding, why they're doing the things. And instead of taking a defense, just be graceful in saying, what have I done? How could I make it well for you? And there, you've been generous in the true sense.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else want to share? Yes. So what's your name?
My name is Kristen Danielle Ballard, first of all, and I try to be generous by actually talking about my disease. I'm a speaker of Williams syndrome, and I always tell people to help people who have a disability who cannot speak for themselves. And so I'm kind of like a teacher and a speaker, and I feel like when you're generous to someone, you love them, you care about them, and you always must help someone in need.
Very well said. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. So, in terms of gratitude, it's easy to express gratitude when things are hunky dory, right? Everything's going well. But when there are times of hardships and adversity, it's not that easy to find gratitude, is it? Like if you just lost your job, or the seemingly love of your life just dumped you. It's hard to find gratitude in that, right? And look at Baha'u'llah. He was imprisoned and exiled so many times and betrayed and wrongfully accused. And through all of that, he still maintained an attitude of gratitude. And he taught us and reminding us to be thankful in adversity. Why? Anybody want to take a stab?
We learn and we become humble. We learn and we become humble.
Yes, humble. We learn and become humble in what ways? Can you elaborate, please?
Well, we learn from our adversities, even though they're hard lessons. And in our humility, we become closer to God if we let that light into our lives during this time rather than rejecting.
Yes.
And so with that, in the humility of our spirits, we can move forward in our pathway to return to God.
Yes, beautifully said. Beautifully said. Mary, did you raise your hand earlier?
Hi, thank you. All right. Hello. I think it's a call to be the greatest version of yourself, because it's easy to just be grateful when it's good, like you said. And I think if you can do it when in hardship, you can do it in any time. I know when I'm in a state of gratitude, I'm better able to serve and show up for those around me. And I think you put yourself in a position where you always are able to be a better version and to make a bigger impact if you're in a state of gratitude, even when things are hard. So basically, always. Well, not 24/7, we're not perfect, but being able to extract that. And then what somebody else said about the lessons, if you're in a state of gratitude, you're able to, I feel like, extract the lessons from hardship in that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, and just one thing to just add to the two beautiful comments here is, especially when you look at Baha'u'llah's life, and if you look at your own life as well, you notice that every single adversity or challenges that we face, there's always a gift there to be uncovered, right? There's always a lesson, just like what Deborah was saying earlier. There's always a gift that Mary was saying earlier to help us in gratitude. But especially when you look at Baha'u'llah's situation, he remained faithful. He didn't get upset. He didn't go into that negativity and start letting that hatred consume him, right? He stayed faithful in his faith. He knew that there had to be a reason why he's serving in this way. And because he remained faithful, the gift came to him, right? The Spirit came to him so that he can receive the messages that he's here to deliver unto humanity. And that was his greatest gift for all of us. And that's why, to me, when I read his writing of be generous prosperity and thankful in adversity, that's what comes to mind to me, right? The next one that I thought was really interesting was that he reminded us to do not be comfortable with just showing friendship in words alone. Let your heart burn with loving kindness for all who may cross your path. Right? What does that mean to you? What comes to mind when you hear that? Yes. Kim.
To me, it just means to be there for people, to be aware and sensitive, so that you're not just, waiting for someone to ask for help or for companionship, and just to be there. Like, you don't have to offer advice, you don't necessarily have to give them anything, just giving them your attention and your presence.
Thank you. Very good. Does anybody here has an example of them going out of their way, going above and beyond to help someone they didn't know, a stranger or somebody they just met? Anyone? Yes. Excuse me.
So at Target once, I saw a woman who was wearing a neck brace, and I could see she was struggling, so I saw she had a grocery list, and I just asked her if she wanted to go have a seat, and I'd pick up her stuff for her. So she was really taken like aback, and honestly, it's really not my character either. That was a one-off for me, but it was really fun. It was fun.
Nice, very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Maria. Getting a lot of exercise here tonight.
Several years ago, during COVID, there was a lady at the gas station that I normally don't go to this gas station, and I did that day. And she was sitting on a little curb, and you can tell that she was pretty sunburned. But she approached me, and I gave her the hand up because distancing, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she was going to walk away. I said, "No, just stay there. Let me finish pumping my gas. I want to talk to you." So we talked, and I found out that she had been kicked out of the place where she was staying with her daughter, and all of her belongings was there. She had a little dog. Called my husband. I said, "Okay, I'm going to be late." Went in, got her some food. We went to a hotel. And because I have a pretty large networking system, I had everybody get involved, including the Largo Police Department. They were able to get her into a shelter, and then she eventually had a place to stay in one of the cabins there. So, yeah, but it was a group effort, so I don't do anything alone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. What a blessing. Yes. Do you mind if we let this gentleman speak? Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Absolutely.
This is a story. It's kind of interesting because I was at a group. It was like for activities for blind people, like percussion, botany, whatever. And so I'm there, and at lunch, this woman comes up to me. Natasha was her name. I said, "How long have you been blind?" She said, "Too long." And I thought, "Oh, I like you." She's not saying, yeah. Anyway, she was honest. Anyway, something happened in the class. It was her first time there. Her mother wanted her to come home. And it's very easy to look and say, "Well, what? You're in the best place you can be. Tell your mother to leave you alone. You'll be home." Anyway, she was all panicked, running around, trying to get a bus if it could come early, whatever. This is my point. She ran past me, and I said, "Natasha, when my mother comes pick me up, we'll drive you home." Seems like no big deal. We drove her home, and anyway, long story short, about a year and a half later, she died because she had diabetes, whatever. And I called her phone number, and her mother picked up the phone. I said, "Hi, my name is Peter," and her mother said, "You're all she ever talked about." you know? And that's the point is like, it was no big deal to say, we'll drive you home. It was just being there at a time of some, and it may have been irrational. No one understood. What's the big deal? But it was a big deal in her mind, and it wasn't for me to question it. It was for me to do something about it because I can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, because you're absolutely right. You never know what a small act of kindness, what that would do for someone at the right time, at the right place, right? So absolutely, thank you for sharing that story. Soledad, did you have something real quick?
Real quick, I would not be here if it weren't for Cameron. And he extended himself incredibly. I had a family that have lost their home, their fire. I didn't know Cameron, but he called me out of the blue. And not only helped me find a place for this family, but he helped furnish their home. And he absolutely, unselfishly donated his own personal resources to make this family find a place to be. I'm telling you, this was a large family. There were 8 of them. And had not been for Cameron, they wouldn't have had a place to stay. And they did stay for about 3 years. So thank you, Cameron.
Everybody, hand applause for Cameron. Woo! Thank you, Cameron. All right. So, in essence, this really, what all this brings about, what I believe is that everybody comes into our life who crosses our path is an opportunity for us to honor our faith and love in God. And what we choose to do with that opportunity and how we treat that person will shape our character and our spiritual growth. Right? Okay. Well, I had 2 other things to share, but we had such a wonderful discussion here. I'm going to table that for now so that we can introduce the next segment. If we have time later on, we'll circle back, okay? So another focal point of the Baha'i faith is to be in service of humanity through purity of hearts and good deeds. Baha'u'llah once said, "Let deeds, not words, be your adorning." Next is a skit that beautifully portrays this great teaching. And this skit is performed by Vicki Hill, a wellness consultant, certified guided imagery practitioner, portrait artist, and soloist playing the role of Grandma. She's accompanied by Soraya Coco playing the role of Anne, and Maya Coco playing the role of, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess this up. Vicky, Maya Coco playing the role of Vicky, and Mona Coco playing the role of Cindy. Please welcome them to the stage. You guys need this? You need another one?
Good evening, everyone. My beautiful actresses are going to take place.
Vicky, are they going to need another mic? Or all of them going to need a
I
mic?
think they are going to project, right? Right, okay. Instead of sitting on the floor, you can sit on the chairs. Okay. Okay. Vicky and Ann were best friends. They played together every single day. Let me turn on my lights. Every single day. They played hide and seek, tetherball. They rode their bikes together. But their favorite thing to do was to play Barbie dolls. So they played Barbie dolls almost every day. They had Barbie, Ken, Skipper, Midge, all the accessories, the car, the house. Well, they had a lot of Barbie stuff. One day, Ann and Vicky were on the front porch playing Barbie dolls, and their neighbor from across the street, Cindy, she crossed over and she said,
"Hey, can I play with you guys?" "No, you don't need dolls. Go home."
"Woo woo." Ann shook her head and said no. And Vicky said to Ann,
"Are you sure? Because she didn't know how to do that." "Yeah, she. I don't want to show her. She didn't have any dolls. It's her fault." "Well, I have to go home. Bye."
Yeah, later, Vicky went to her house and told her very best friend, her grandma, what had happened.
Anne wouldn't let Cindy play because she had no dolls, and now she ran away crying home, and I feel really bad.
Well, what did you do?
I told her that we might have wanted her to play with us, but she said no.
Oh, and so you feel sad for Cindy?
Yeah.
You feel bad? Because was that kind?
No.
I understand. You know, my child, you are what you do, not what you think or say. What you do is who you are. What you do is who one day you'll become. Not every child can have all the things you have, but no matter who you are, you can be kind and share. So Baha'u'llah tells us, let deeds, not words, be your adorning. So you said something to Anne, but you did nothing. What do you think you should do now?
Go to Cindy and play with her.
Ah, I think that would be a kind thing to do. So, Vicky grabbed up her toys, went over to Cindy's house, and said, and Baha'u'llah tells us, let deeds, not words, be your adorning.
Baha'u'llah also once said, happy and blessed is he who ariseth to promote the best interests of the peoples and the kindreds of the earth. It is not for him to pride himself in who loveth his own country, but rather for him who loveth the whole world. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens. Baha'u'llah called the entire world to unity, love, and peace, and his wisdom touched the lives and hearts of countless people around the world and of all stations in life. Queen Marie of Romania once said, saddened by the continual strife amongst believers of various, hold on, it will come to me. Okay, I need help. What's that one word that I'm missing? Faith. Is it? It's not faith. Saddened by the continual strife of believers among, it could be many, various faiths. Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm missing that word, but I think you guys get the message. And wearied of the intolerance towards each other. I've discovered in the Baha'i teachings the real spirit of Christ often denied and understood. Unity instead of strife. Hope instead of condemnation. Love instead of hate. And a great reassurance for all men. His wisdom, it's to me, that's quite impressive. The reach and the impact of his wisdom, isn't it? And so in this next segment, Deborah Weller, a professional storyteller and teacher who has been performing virtually, locally, and internationally for 43 years, will bring to life several examples of Baha'u'llah's wisdom through stories about Baha'u'llah's father, his kindness to a child, and also his respect for an older gentleman. Please welcome Deborah Weller.
Baha'u'llah, he was that mortal man, but he touched so many lives. And it is through his stories that we learn of his life. A follower loved him dearly. This follower had a great desire to meet Baha'u'llah. He was but a little child, for you see, on Friday evenings and Friday afternoon, Baha'u'llah would open his home to his beloved followers. They would come there and have a feast. And of course, after people feast, they would rest. This follower was but a boy. And here he was watching all of the adults fall asleep. But being a curious child, he decided to discover what was in Baha'u'llah's home. He walked down the hallway, and one of the places he discovered was the kitchen. He went inside and looked here and looked there, only to come upon a bag of sugar. The boy reached in and he took that sugar and tasted it, and it was so sweet that he thought he should get more. So he scooped up sugar in one hand and scooped it up in the other and cupped his hands and started walking down the hallway holding that sugar, hoping no one would see him. But at the end of the hall, Baha'u'llah came walking toward him. Oh, he knew he was in trouble now. He expected that he would be chastised. But Baha'u'llah, no. He looked at this little child and saw the evidence of the sugar in his hand. And he said to him, "My dear child, you love sweets. Come with me." And he took him into the dining room, where there was a tray of candy, and told the child to pick out some that he should eat. Well, the boy was confused, for he thought he would be chastised, but now he was being offered even more sweets. And he ate the sugar, and he ate the sweets. And Baha'u'llah looked at him and said, "My dear child, you are a sweet boy, and you see the sweetness of God." And the boy was not chastised. The parents heard the story, and the boy was in awe of how he was treated by the beloved beauty. And because of that, it stayed with him in his heart throughout his life, that this man could love him. And because of that, he in turn could love others. Now, Baha'u'llah, thank you. He was, as we've heard, he was a very kind man, and he suffered enormously through trials, tribulations, beatings, and exiled. When he was in exile at Akkar, There was an old man living in Persia. And this man wanted to meet Baha'u'llah before his days upon the earth were finished. He dreamed about it. And finally, he said to all of his friends, I'm going to Akka. I'm going to find him. He set out over the desert, through the rivers, and finally he arrived at the place where Baha'u'llah was exiled. But Baha'u'llah was in exile, writing, teaching, meeting people. And he invited this old man into his home. And the man sat by his feet, communed with him, ate with him, listened to him singing as everyone cherished his voice. And they all loved this man from Persia. And this man from Persia had no formal learning, couldn't read or write. But his heart embraced all that he was learning, and he honored Baha'u'llah. At last, his days there, he had to return to Persia. And he went home, and he decided he needed to write to Baha'u'llah. But he didn't know how to write. So he took a blank piece of paper, put it into an envelope, and had his friends write the name. And it was delivered as Baha'u'llah was receiving so much mail from the people who loved him. And when this bag of mail came, Baha'u'llah had a feeling in his heart that there would be this letter from this man that he had home in his house. And he said to his secretary, find that one. And they did. They sorted through all of these letters and proclamations and found that one letter. They were all sitting around anticipating, what would this be so special for? Alas, Baha'u'llah opened the envelope, pulled out the paper. Everyone gasped. It was blank. What would Baha'u'llah want with a blank piece of paper? How dare someone bother to take his time that way? But Baha'u'llah laughed and smiled and said, to give this blank piece of paper is an honor indeed. For this man knows so much that I know all that he was writing to me. And Baha'u'llah wrote a letter back to him and taught him many things. It was delivered by courier to the man in Persia. And that man felt the love of Baha'u'llah for all the remaining days of his life. Baha'u'llah's generosity was well known, from the way he treated a child to the old man. One day he was riding horseback, and he came to a cave, and in that cave was a hermit. The man was disheveled, but Baha'u'llah didn't care. But the man knew who it was, and he was humbled and invited him into his cave. No chairs, no beds, and barely any food. And the man felt bad. He came to Baha'u'llah and said, I have no food to give you. He said, don't worry, whatever you have, we shall eat together. And the man found some brown barley bread. He found some nuts and fresh spring water. And he and Baha'u'llah shared that feast. In fact, Baha'u'llah was so pleased to be with the man, he stayed for 3 days. And Baha'u'llah thanked the man, even though this cave was bare. And that man was touched by his light and bade him farewell, but was never the same again. Baha'u'llah's father loved his son. And one night, he had a dream about his son. He first saw the ocean. And in that ocean, there was a glowing light. It was his son. His son was glowing, and the ocean began to glow with the light of God. And suddenly fish came swimming in that ocean. And Baha'u'llah's long, dark hair was flowing here and there, and each fish took a piece of that hair and swam with Baha'u'llah. They did not bring him harm, but they followed him, and they followed his light. His father, awoken from the dream, and was a bit disturbed. He felt peaceful from the dream. But he went to a wise man and said, I've had this dream. Can you tell me what it means? And the wise man interpreted the dream. Good father, the ocean is our world. The fish are all the people. And they are following the light of God, emanating from your son. And the father was pleased. And the father knew that his child was a child of God with the light of God. No one could predict the future, but his son fulfilled it. May they now be in your hearts today.
Thank you so much, Deborah. All right, everyone. So as we wrap up our program tonight, Vicki Hill is going to lead the Voices of Unity, a glorious noise, in a choir performance that beautifully summarizes Baha'u'llah's life and the impact he made on humanity. All right, Vicky, let's welcome Vicky and the Voices of Choir, a glorious noise, to the stage.
I think we're doing Baha'u'llah first. I think, but Vicky's the one who knows. Baha'u'llah first. Won't you call my name? Baha'u'llah. Won't you call my name? Baha'u'llah. Won't you call my name? Till love and unity reign. Won't you touch my heart? Won't you touch my heart? Won't you touch my heart and teach the world to love? Won't you touch my hand? Baha'u'llah. Won't you take my hand? Baha'u'llah. Won't you take my hand and guide us to the promised land? And guide us to the promised land. And guide us to the promised land. Start playing the drum. Let me tell you all a story about Baha'u'llah. He was humble, he was holy, the glory of God. But they took him and they chained him in a prison underground. In that dark and dirty sea of child, they took him 3 flights down. Oh, they had my Lord in shackles. He was tortured and bound. Down those dark and narrow stairways, there was sorrow all around. With the weight of heavy chains just bearing down. But God said, my child, I will deliver you from 3 flights down. They took him 3 flights down in that prison underground. One way in, one way out, where no joy could be found. But he had God on his side, and he was glory bound. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from 3 flights down. Every time his enemies, they thought that they had won. No matter just how bad it seemed, their plans would come undone. When it seemed like times were darkest, like evil was gonna win, the omnipotent, the all-bountiful would step right on in. They took him 3 flights down in that prison underground. One way in, one way out, where no joy could be found. But he had God on his side, and he was glory bound. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from 3 flights down. Now sunshine follows shadow, new dawn follows night. The doings of the wrong are overcome by right. As God can bring us happiness and take away our pain, he gave my Lord the victory, and in triumph now he reigns. They took him 3 flights down in that prison underground. One way in, one way out, when no joy could be found. But he had God on his side, and he was glory bound. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from 3 flights down. So when your soul feels heavy, when there's trouble all around, just think about Baha'u'llah in that prison underground. God is on your side, and his love, it knows no bounds, and he can lift you out of trouble when you're feeling like you're 3 flights down. They took him 3 flights down in that prison underground. One way in, one way out, where no joy could be found. But he had God on his side, and he was glory bound. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from 3 flights down. Yes, he said, my child, I will deliver you from 3 flights down. And don't you know he did deliver my Lord from 3 flights down. 3 flights down. 3 flights down. 3 flights down.
Bravo, bravo. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to be here tonight as your MC. And thank you not only for being here, but for your love, your engagement, your shares, and all of that, which made this presentation, which helped all of us embody and really highlight the wisdom of Baha'u'llah in our hearts and carry that forward in our days. And I want to give a special thanks to all my program peers who had a hand in delivering this beautiful presentation. So that includes all performers, Jale, Aria, behind the scenes, everyone, please come up. All performers, choir, yep, please come up. Thank you, everyone, for working so hard and generously giving their time and expertise to help us deliver this beautiful program here tonight. Yep. And on behalf, yes, absolutely, you should be here. And on behalf of the team, may your hearts be filled with love, peace, and unity. And I want to share and leave us with one more beautiful reminder from Baha'u'llah before we leave. And if you know this, please join in and say this with me. Ye are the fruits of one tree, the leaves of one branch. Deal ye with one another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship. So powerful is the light of unity that it will illuminate the entire earth. So may we go forward in our days and lives ahead to illuminate this world with our beautiful fellowship. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you so much.